All right.
Three, two, one. Let's go! Yeah! Look at John Mark!
Yes!
Yeah! Now that was the best.
That was awesome.
That was the best remote 3-2-1 that we've gotten up to date. No question about it, Skippo.
Without a doubt. It's not even close.
Not even close. Dude, is that, you said that was Sedona behind you?
It is Sedona.
Wow. And that's
when I was there early last month. Yeah.
Wow. Perfect weather.
Oh, dude, it was gorgeous.
What were you doing? You just hiking around?
I was, hiking around. I was there visiting a good friend of mine who was just kind of like doing his thing. He's kind of like this traveling guy, and he's just like, hey, come down to Sedona. I'm at this ranch, and like it's this beautiful property, and it has like this amazing view of Cathedral Rock. So the property that he was on was like on this cliff, and he was kind of like watching it for a friend, and we were just kind of camping on it.
No way.
Yeah, dude, it was unreal. But yeah, the next day, like he had to go, to work or something, and I was just like, I'm gonna go hiking.
So that's that's an image from Hangover Trail.
The top of Hangover Trail, which I'll tell you this: when you get up here, or by the time you make it to the top, the hangover is gone.
There you go. And what are those rocks made out of, Skippo?
Oh, this is all. This is like not the Supai group. It's so it's the Coconino sand, Kaibab in some places, and you can kind of see the red wall. So it's like that top group of the Grand Canyon. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you get the Hermit Shale, which is your cliff formers, and then above it you get the sand, and then in some places you have some exposed lime, and then like when you're driving in, you have like all these massive like lava flows that are like capping stuff. So. Yeah, it's just beautiful. First time in Sedona, it was lights out.
Wow. Well, speaking of the Sedona, something we learned in the show with John Mark Staude, our guest, and an absolute honor to share this time with John Mark Staude. He said his grandparents, the family of Staude,
grandmother built the church.
Yeah.
Am I right, John Mark?
That's right. Actually, it's my grandmother, grandfather, the Staude family built the Sedona church there, Chapel of the Holy Cross.
Wow. And on top of that, I am going to read John Mark Staude's bio. And ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to a few minutes, because John Mark Staude holds a PhD in economic geology and has over 20 years of diverse mining and exploration experience in precious and base metals. He earned a Master's of Science from Harvard University in 1989 and a PhD in economic geology from the University of Arizona in 1995. Mr. Staude held positions in increasing responsibility with a number of major international mining companies, including Kennecott, BHP, messed that up, Kennecott, BHP Billiton, and most recently, Teck Cominco.
Teck Cominco, and it's so cool that those companies have now evolved into losing their second name.
Oh, there you go. Good. So Kennecott, BHP, and Teck. He also worked with smaller commodity-focused companies like Magma Copper Company and consulted to private investment groups. Mr. Staude's extensive Latin America mineral resource experience began in Mexico and then extended through South America. Recently, Mr. Staude has ventured in Europe and Asia, initiating companies and managing successful exploration programs in Turkey, Romania, and China. Mr. Staude is incredible. It doesn't say that in his bio, but that's what I say. Mr. Staude has been successful in creating shareholder value through discoveries of gold and copper in Mexico, Peru, and Turkey. He has located additional resources in known districts and helped convert discoveries into new mining operations. His technical and managerial experience spans from more than 30 countries in diverse geologic environments. Through Riverside Resources, Mr. Staude will continue to build strong portfolios and profitable businesses through prospect generation, early stage partnering, and drill discoveries. John Mark Staude, it is an absolute honor, sir.
Thank you. It's great to be on the show.
Man, I mean, this show, Skippo, how do you mark it? I mean, it's up.
Lights out, man. Lights out. I mean, for us especially, because coming from that petroleum space and just kind of discussing, we kind of understand the business of petroleum, but kind of getting that shift into the economic geology space. And I mean, I couldn't have imagined a better guest than this. John Mark just does a great job kind of breaking it all down from just the business of economic geology itself to understanding these complex JV relationships.
Right.
And that's what the show touches on.
I believe you're a pioneer in JV relationships based on your experience through Harvard and experience through this. You had this idea that I like this economic international ability to communicate and make business. And then, geoscience. Oh my gosh, you actually provide the real value, boots on the ground. You merge the two. And the way you speak of JVs is just incredible. I learned so much today. What did you learn, John Mark? What do you got? Anything good?
I really saw how much values is in the joint venture. I also saw how really cool it is to be able to touch upon bringing science at a much bigger level, particularly with the petroleum and with the basin and thinking about Permian Basin together. I mean, it's really, really fun. I think the third thing is fun. It's great to be on the show and to be with you guys and spend some time and see the passion you're bringing to it. I mean, geology is just rocks, but rocks are actually really exciting. And unlocking that and telling the stories, just as Skip said, letting the rocks have their story and story be told is just great. And I know that's what you stand for, Troy. So great to be on the show.
Gosh, thank you so much, John Mark. I mean, we have all kinds of reasons. You serve on the board of Magma Research Institute, and we're trying to get that up and going and explain the understanding of rocks through Magma Chem, and that is fascinating in itself. And I'm just beyond grateful to work with someone of your experience and your knowledge and helping us to progress what the Research Institute will ultimately come. But the show for me at its core was down to the individuals. And right now in this pressure that we feel, or that I feel, and I talk to Stan daily, Monty daily, I talk to these people that are just incredible mentors. And then I have people like Skips and friends that are boots on the ground. Like, what are we going to do through this time, and what is it going to look like in the future? And no one can say with certain what that is, but without question, the universal truth is that there's a passion, there's enthusiasm, and there's a want to make a difference. That's what we are in search of. You guys have built this opportunity for us. And now, amongst all the nature that has pressed against us, COVID is squeezing us through this time, and it's now the time for millennials to get in those manager positions and start making a difference.
Totally so. It really is. And I think this show really opens up those doors for that.
Man, John Mark, you're awesome. You're awesome. Skippo, you got anything before we say that it's all over with?
Dude, I think we just dive right into the show. I think that's the game plan. I think we let the show speak for itself.
All right, Skippo, that's usually what we do best. John Mark Staude, the conceptions part of the PBE podcast, and delivering information of value to everybody that that follow PBE and us as professionals. We're young professionals. That's our perspective. We both have master's degree in geoscience, and we're both really revved up on the fact that there is a lot of opportunity in the near future for geoscience degrees to make a difference for a company, and we just are fans of that.
I am too, and I'm also a master's of geoscience. And the thing that I really like about geoscience is it's been just a wonderful life. That so many things actually have opened up. I actually started getting into geoscience because I wanted to go on a hike and know what I was looking at my feet. Then when I lived in Arizona, I loved hiking the mountains and being able to know all the different rocks and bring that together. And it's just really fun. It's great to be able to choose a career that you can just embrace yourself with. It's really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, really expanding your curiosity with some real things to think about. I mean, that's what's fun about geology to me as well. It's really a combination of all the sciences applied to the physical world. And when you do that, there's the questions, the technical questions of why is the oxidation state this, or why is the bulk magma this? And you dive down into the details, and when with data, you're supported with a hypothesis, and it's our job and ability, and Skip's always says this, it's our job and ability to tell that story of what the data is suggesting.
Yeah. We are historians for the earth. We just look at the data. That's all we use, right? The earth can't speak to us except in data. And so it's our job to interpret that data and tell that story. That's our job as geoscientists.
You're right on, Skips, and it really is. And it's fun actually to be able to work in industry where you have the access to capital to be able to blend that science, trying to understand, and yet also through industry, trying to extract some value that you can share with the communities where you are. So it's almost the beautiful, best place to be, where you can work with the smartest people to do great things, to create true intrinsic value. And that's what's really drawn me into it. So although I got a PhD after that master's, I just was so passionate, I kept going in that direction. But it's that chance to bring in the industry and to apply it. You're right, Skips, you're right on.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. So where was this geoscience hungry John Mark Staude born and raised? Where was the undergrad? And then let's go through that academic journey.
Well, it was really fun. I was actually lucky. I grew up in Riverside, California. Now I run a company called Riverside. It's pretty fun when you found a company. You can't pay yourself, but at least you get to name it. So that was fun.
The Inland Empire.
We got going, and now we've created it public. It's now listed on the Toronto Venture Stock Exchange, and we have staff, and it's been a great run. But really, from the undergraduate, I was started off in international relations, and I found that was all hocus pocus, a lot of negotiation, and and it was fun, but it wasn't really true science. It wasn't real. I took geology classes, and it kind of used this duck to water. I just found all of a sudden it was straight A's, got scholarships. It just really fit, and it was really fun, and it's really helped me in the conversations when you find that hand to glove thing. I got a scholarship to go to Harvard, and I thought I was going to be a professor. Did all of it and started to work there, but I found that it was pretty narrow. Just the science was narrow, and I took this class of economic geology. And all of a sudden, I found this economics blending with the rock. It was really cool.
So in that class, it was kind of like those two worlds colliding at once. And all of a sudden, you're like, whoa, the business side of things, as well as that passionate, the science. And now we get to blend this. And now I get to provide a way to identify resources for the planet, which is...
Yeah, it does, because it goes to place where I was 15 years old. When I was 15 years old, I went on a foreign exchange program to live in Argentina.
What?
And when I came back from living in Argentina, I couldn't speak English. I had just totally integrated myself into Spanish.
You were dreaming in Spanish.
Dreaming in Spanish and really present to what was there.
Wow.
And that's just, I put whatever I get into, just fully into it with total commitment and passion. And my life is about making a difference in Latin America. Wow. So I don't go to work. We create a better future for Latin America. We create a better future for people, and that's just what we do. And the best place wasn't in international relations. It was really in this blending of economics and geology. And so I chose to graduate and leave Harvard and began to go work first at the U.S. Geological Survey. And then from there, I started to work in industry, and we made a big mining discovery, a new mineral wealth discovery of a high sulfidation gold system in Mexico that's now made over $2 billion mining company, a pretty successful company, has grown to be over $3 billion as Alamos Gold. And that was great to be there right from the first drill holes.
What was the mine that was the discover?
That was awesome. This discovery is called Mulatos, and it's just south of Arizona, down in the Sonora. So if you go from the Chiricahua Mountains and follow the volcanics to the south, in that mountain range down there, you have these high sulfidation gold systems. And so we drilled the first holes, and I said, this is going to be a mine. It was just a project, but I could see it was the right style. I said, I really had confidence. So I actually decided to go back and do my PhD doctorate on the geology and synthesis of the structure and the history. And as Skip says, really try to give the world of what's there on Earth a description and lay it out there.
Right.
And so wrote that up and tried to then reconstruct Humpty Dumpty in a reconstruction of the geology, and then tried to put it together back through time slices.
Wow, that's right.
And I came across this gentleman, Stan Keith, at that time. He had a whole other different model, and it was really great because I had this deep technicalness and really, really fun in how to deal with things and deal with it. But completed that, and the day I graduated, I was on a plane, immediately hired by industry to go and apply that. And I think that was the difference, that when I was in academia, I was applying for money. When we go into industry, we're creating that value. And so if we create that value, the money, we work together, we're still asking for money, but trying to make a real return on that money and reading the story of the rock.
Wow. And we'll get into the JV part of that and of business. But before that, and in the conception, because this is you just putting this all together and watching it unfold. And now we're looking back on that. And so what stood out to me is, what was it about the business side of mining exploration that butted heads the most, I guess, with science, or like with the idea that there is a deposit here and they're going, okay, well, is it economic? And and as a geoscientist, that might be something different, especially coming out of academia. You're going, I don't know what that means, but I get paid to tell you that there's a resource here, and I'm telling you that that's there. But then now you have this whole nother thing introduced in your life, and now it's the economics of it. Is this providing the source, a resource, and is it making the business money?
Yeah, and so, I think actually maybe instead of butting heads, actually it's hand in glove going together.
Nice.
And that's the thing that's really cool, that it actually is no friction at all. It's homogeneously going together. Now there's challenges and there's community, and we don't want it here, not in my backyard, all kinds of other things that hit to what eventually can make something work. But it's wonderful when the economics wants to do it, because it has the potential to really make a fundamental difference in so many ways to so many people. And that's what we did at Mulatos. It became a big mine. Places that didn't have electricity, places that didn't have running water, places that didn't have paved roads. Wow. And now they have all of that. And they have security, and they have safety, and they have communities. And it's been really fun to see that. And I think that's what's really inspired me then the following 30 years now since that time. Wow. Where we've continually worked in 33 countries around the world to try to develop resources in those communities that are really copacetic, that are winning, that work environmentally with the community, that engage and leave a lasting positive value. And so that's what you really see is the value. Is it's not about the dollars, it's about the cents, about making a difference for people. And it's really fun.
That's awesome to hear. Because I mean, not only are you providing a resource in economic quality, right, or economic quantities, right? You can quantify that, but also you're improving the quality of life for all the individuals that live in these areas. You're turning something that has been, I don't want to say possibly third world, possibly not in the best situation, and now you're providing, like you said, the infrastructure there, for that area to grow. And now now that economy is beginning to roll, you're bringing, people are working, they're making more money, and that's just a snowball effect. I mean, that's just awesome.
It really does, and it captures to what, captures knowledge, it creates education, opportunity. And so if we can leverage off of those times while we do have those going, where we can use those resources, that new infrastructure that's supported through the mining or through the petroleum as well, through any extraction of resources, any new value, we create that value. It can leave a very positive opportunity to make a difference and to leave a place better and more sustained for the future. And it creates a great, really, really good growth for the community and for the country. So it's really good, I think.
Wow. What was one of the most shocking things about, if there was a shocking thing or something that was just really learned about, I guess, is the challenge of going out, where the rock is, its depth, its potential size and shape, and now you have to physically get that out of the earth. I mean, that challenge there. What did you see going into it at such a young age, like what the engineers were able to do and to accomplish on recovering this material?
Yeah, I think at the formative side, the formative thing was when you change from being a student or someone that's kind of paid to the point where you're actually really needing to create value. And it's different. You're going as an employee, kind of like Kiyosaki talks about, where you actually are creating value. You get beyond a job. So for me, one of the key steps there was the difference thing is, as a scientist going to study, you're paid, you have grant to do the research versus being funded there to go, but actually to create business. Mm-hmm. One of the things today that's the biggest challenge is so many things are against it happening. It's really disappointing. So many things, communities and so many other aspects that don't want it there. And it's like, look, we want to work together to make something better. And instead of taking such stark and strong stances against it, let's try to figure out how we can make things that are really win-win overall. And it's quite frustrating between governments and sometimes corruption, really disappointing because we want to make something better. And there's so many things in the way that it's often kind of like running a line of hurdles. You keep jumping over the hurdles, but people keep putting more hurdles in front of you. And it's like, guys, we're just trying to deliver a win-win project here. And I think that you don't realize when you're a scientist, because the scientists can just focus on it. But when you're trying to make an economic return for the money that's being given to you to do it, and there's all these continual things going in front of you, it actually can be quite challenging. And I think that sometimes people say, why do you get into these extraction of resources? Because it can be very difficult. And there's, other things doing technology, computer programming, other things that are different. But to really make a fundamental difference, resource extraction and resource value is there.
Wow. I love that. I love the way you said that, because when it comes to blending the community and industry, that's a universal truth and a struggle for, I think, every city. And it's just like Midland, Odessa, in the heart of the Permian Basin. I mean, that's a very similar thing going on there. And what's hard is the rules of the negotiation, if you could create some that people would abide by, should be logic and reality. And unfortunately, there is nothing there, and there's no bumper saving everybody from allowing emotion to get involved, because it's scientifically proven, I believe, that emotion is a very strong motivator that almost distorts your reality if you allow it. So when you feel the chills and you feel that momentum in the moment, can you control those emotions in order to best provide for your citizens and for the industry and for the city and for the progression of our ability as people? That's really difficult. And so you can go in with logic and reality, but the emotion that's involved in that is, that's where I just thought of, and anyway, I got lost in that.
No, it is. It's very emotional, and I think one of the things about emotion is, so where we work, we always try to work with local people. Here I am in Canada, so we have Canadian employees, Canadian staff, or we're doing Canadian projects. We work out at Sugarloaf Peak in Arizona. We work with Arizonans. We work with people in that region. And so because we're visitors in that environment, we're bringing capital. We're trying to make a difference with them and for them together.
Right.
And then in Mexico, so here we have COVID or other things happening, but we're there working with local people that live there. So we're not traveling necessarily internationally with all of our people, but working with the people in that community. Everywhere we go, we always hire and work with locals. Some of the longest employees we have are the people that are the watchmen, the people that have been on the project over time.
Wow.
They stay there. We continue to employ them, fixing the schools, fixing the water systems, fixing the infrastructure to the communities, so we can leave a lasting positive way, rather than giving money, but to invest in those communities that we work and employ those people with education. Riverside as a company, we call it knowledge is golden.
Right.
That's our tagline. And it really fits with our belief and theory that we really can make a difference.
Wow. Skippo, you got anything?
That is, well, I was going to, the thinking about it. I mean, when you're talking about any geopolitical issue, things are always going to get complex because there's obviously, and you don't want to be the one steamrolling over someone, and you don't want to be the one getting steamrolled.
That's right.
So there's that juxtaposition where, both people need to meet in the middle. And especially I can see with like a new venture team in an area that's never been, explored before, that country or that economy or that state, whatever have you, doesn't have any experience or background in that. So with you guys, I'm sure there are things that they're making up on the fly. It could be in their best interest, or it could just be kind of a reaction to something that you guys want to do. They just want to make sure their side is safe, and vice versa. So, I mean, I could see when you're going down those rabbit holes and, it's like, hey, let's just get in, let's do the project, like we'll abide by these regulations and let's get this thing moving. Cause that's going to be the best path for both parties. Right. But I'm sure there are times where it's like, well, let's just add, one or two more things into this deal. And, it delays the project even further and further. So yeah, I'm just thinking about that. Do you have any experience in that you'd like to share, as far as, it doesn't need to be the specific area, but, maybe a topic on that matter?
Totally. And I think one of the things is that the political people or the different people in power change as well. So that's always changing. And so you have these relationships and agreements, and then things keep changing all the time. And so we've had this experience quite often on the projects we're working on. We've worked on 64 projects over the last 13 years. So we've had a lot of projects. We're just forming a new company right now, and it'll go public, and that'll be great. And that's neat. And we've done that 7 times where we've helped new companies go. And so each one of these, there's all these different steps. And, and so we have vast people that are employed and working with us, and it's fun. And so, yeah, I think that one of the things that happens is that every day you're always learning and you're finding, hey, this is happening, but it's always, you have these long-term visions rather than really a defined plan that's going to all turn out the way it is. So you have your plan, and it's constantly being changed. And I think one of the things is that I've learned is that, you really have to have that direction, because otherwise you can get lost.
Wow.
So you need to have that business direction. And that's really, really a key thing, Skip, is that, you have your values, and people talk about it, but it's really true. If you really have those values. And so when things come up, as long as you keep against those same constant values, it keeps working out. Things go up and down, and it can be hard, but you get through it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's a very important point for every successful business, and everyone that I've talked to that's owned a successful business, whether it's oil and gas or finance, that understanding what your values are, being able to write those values down off the cuff is, I believe, one of the most important things that any successful business needs. Just 4 or 5 things, trust, focus, whatever those core values are, having that is, yeah.
All right. What's your core value? No, you brought it up, Skip. Let's hear it. Let's hear 5 of them right off the top.
Five
right off the top. I was going to say, man, you're going to throw me on the spot.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No,
so I'll take Skip off the spot. So for me, integrity is so important. It's great. No, really, integrity is vital. Really, we have to be honest with what we're doing and where we are. Another one's passion. Really finding people. So, today I'm interviewing a person. He's like, what's my title? I say, what do you want your title to be? Where do you want to go? We want to mentor and create. So passion is a key one.
Wow.
I think inclusive. We really want to get diversity. I've got this young, great lady working in our group, and she's actually the CIT, CEO in training. I love it. And she's working with us, and it's great. And she's just totally there, and just really, really. And I think, the other thing is commitment. Really, really is that you're fully committed to the team, to teamwork, to working together. And so it's great. And so everything you see, so people make mistakes, but as long as you see it's coming from a commitment to success, then you really try to reach for that understanding.
Wow.
So those are 4 of the core values that we live and work. And it's interesting, Skip, because you say, you can write them down, but in some respects, they're not limited to 4.
Mhm.
but you can look at these key things, and it's these goodnesses. But really, if you have one thing, integrity, everything is whole in one word. And it's hard because things come up all the time and you're really, really trying to deal with it. And it's really uncomfortable because people don't take it as integrity. People take it other ways. But if you take it as really listening and you're saying, look, I'm really trying to do what's best for the assignment of what I'm trying to do and make it work, then at least they can get to where it is. So it's really good.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And that to me, unless you guys want to talk about anything else with the conception part of this show, is a perfect segue into the drill down. Do we have anything we want to jump into before the drill down?
No, I think that's a really solid transition.
Oh man, are you kidding me? Because the product of our show is more information and knowledge about joint ventures. I can't wait to take what we just heard and what a company that is built on those values is about to tell us how to properly do the business of a joint venture. And I think that out of all things we talk about today is the most powerful. And I think that's everyone that listens to this can take this with them for many years to come. John Mark Staude, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, joint venture, I think the first thing is that it's joint. A lot of times people don't realize it's actually joint, like a marriage. So people are coming together. So really seeking to understand what are the values or what's there for both groups, trying to understand what are the measures and where they're trying to go. And it's really hard because people are bringing different aspects to it. So when you go out, it's seeking first. So we really like Stephen Covey, and those 7 habits are a really great place to be. So a joint venture is jointly to do something, to do the venture. So in our case, we're doing mineral exploration jointly. And immediately that'll often cause a problem because where the two groups want to get to isn't the same point. Mm-hmm. One group maybe wants to find something, someone else wants to mine it, yet they say we're making a joint venture. So when you start to make joint ventures, there's something about scale, equivalency, things that actually naturally can go together.
Wow.
Maybe like Reese and peanut butter cups. Peanut butter and chocolate, they go
My
together.
favorite.
The reason it's your favorite is because it goes together. It's a joint venture between those two tastes, and they blend together. And they both are fine separately, but you bring them together. And that's what joint venture is that you do the stuff that works together. And so I think part of it then is where you're going. You want to go to the same direction, and that really works. And as long as they're similar sized and similar capacity, going in the same direction with the similar values, it really can be much stronger. It's that 1 + 1 = 3. Wow. It's where you can bring more value to it. And for us, working with a partner, for example, with BHP, we're completely different scales. They're 22,000 times bigger than us. So, it's like, how do you work together? You really have to have understanding and things. So, you get these differences that are so amazing, and yet how do you jointly do something together? But to be clear, we're not in a joint venture by definition, because at a joint venture, you're both putting up something equally or at least on a ratio basis. And when someone's 22,000 times larger than you, it's hard for you to put things up on some type of ratio that makes sense. So you have to bring different aspects, not just monetarily. Maybe you bring ideas. And so we actually bring creativity, and we're a prospect generator. And by bringing prospect generation to joint ventures, you can therefore bring different ways that'll actually create value for both parties.
Wow.
So you bring up a really interesting point there. So, and I'm sure because of your time within the economic geology space and within the resource space, you've seen it all. But what's the difference between a JV between, for example, yourselves and another mining company versus a JV between you and something that's more of like a financial company? So some investment firm that comes in, because in those situations, right, their expertise they're bringing in is strictly finance, right? And so those roles of like a non-op in those JV structures, can you kind of go into like the details of like the differences that you see in the two? Because you said in the last one you provide creativity, but let's just say I'm a guy with money and I know you have prospects And
can you
I know
make
you're
me
going to
more
make money
money?
with my money. So can you kind of go into the differences between those two spaces?
You bet, Skip. And so, and sometimes it may not be a really the legal term of a joint venture, but you're talking about a venture that's joint. So, a venture we're going to go together and work on together. And that's great, Skip. So I think what you see is that you actually have, with financial interests, they want a return on the money, and you want to get a delivery, and it's a risk to reward. So with that risk, you try to meet that type of reward. And so you lay out a plan, and there's expectations and an understanding, and really great if you can fully disclose what the risks are out there. And, and then there can be a big reward on the other side, and then you do it. So often in a financial aspect, it's like that type of thing, that it's not really a joint venture, but it's a venture that's joint.
I like that. That's I've never heard that
right.
explained that way before. I really like that a lot, because it's the truth. It's not a joint venture, but we're in this together.
Right. Wow. Okay. And then what about the a big technical joint venture? What's the difference there?
Well, that's exciting. I mean, if you're with a siting for us, we've actually jointly. So say you're with an exploration to develop a new technology, and so this new technology is out there, and trying to do it as a joint venture. You're doing it again. It's with that investor and things. And I think with research, and what I think one of the key aspects is that there is you really trying to go beyond, and that capital facilitates and is appreciated. And it's so important the people spending the capital are appreciative of the people giving that capital, that allowing you to do that. And that's what I found when I was at Harvard and science, is that you really can appreciate that people are giving you that toward a shared vision. And it can open up so many doors, and it's really great. And so to be really so respectful to that capital, and to be careful with it, and try to really not only do your best to achieve it, but to overachieve, to exceed the expectations. And when you exceed the expectations, then the capital can come back again. And so we're lucky we've had a chance to work many times with many different parties, and with the same party again and again. And we just announced a deal with a party where we had done work with them, and now we've done another deal with them. And those are the type of repeat business, I think. And that's when you can really see, you're on win-win.
Right.
Yeah, and like you were saying, being so careful and overachieving, right? You're fostering these long-term relationships, right? You understand what each other's strengths are. You understand, hey, our responsibilities will be X, yours will be Y. Right. And in doing so, we're going to avoid any kind of overlapping. And then, at the end of the day, you guys are just being transparent with one another. And I think that is what fosters a great JV relationship, specifically in any kind of business space. So that was pretty cool, the way that, I mean, just being with these partners for as long as that you have been. I mean, that just goes to show.
It does, and you have these partnerships, and it's nice because the partnerships have a date, and then they extend it. And you love it when they're extended. They go beyond the deadline date. Yeah. They're going, and they're actually, let's keep going. It's okay. It's repeated and going. And I think, it's not easy, and it's not easy on either side, because the other party has many different pressures on it and things like that, particularly if one side's financing and the other's supposed to deliver. There's expectations, and then there's reality, and things get in the middle, and it's hard. And it's been very interesting recently with COVID happening, and how do you keep on track? And they come back and say, well, do you close your business? And instead we said, no, we actually can expand our business, and we can find a way to actually do more than we could do before, and do it in a different way, and use it as an opportunity. But it's only when you have that communication and that trust. Wow. I think that's one of the key values in joint ventures, is trust. And then when you don't have the trust, it's difficult. And so it really comes down to trusting your partner, and then joint ventures can really work much better.
Definitely. So while you were explaining that, I know this is not an easy a question to attack, and I think you have a couple of slides maybe of kind of fundamental JV. Is that true or no?
I do.
Okay.
So just give me a second. I'll pull them up here.
Oh, man. So what you were saying, that the JV on paper, in my opinion, I guess one of the most important things about it with that conversation just now was that both sides are in appreciation of this agreement that's being put together. And it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm just the money guy in this situation, and these, black box scientists got all these crazy ideas. It is about writing a piece of document that brings these two fundamentally different people together, thinking about the project totally different. Let's team up and let's both appreciate this joint venture. That's got to be incredibly challenging.
Just kind of going off what you said, Troy, is like creating that shared vision between two different companies or two different parties that's always going to be a challenge, right? But that's where, creating that shared vision with the shared end goal, that's where that could become a reality. It's just one of those things where you take a step back and it's like, okay, we can get there, right? We might have to forfeit X, you might have to forfeit Y, but we will get to Z.
That's right. Yeah. But really, the drill down segment is definitely liking to focus on the science of the mining industry in regards to de-risking and that it's a safe bet today. It's a safe bet to go into mining and invest in our ability to find the resources that are in need and that are of economic value. And that's exciting.
It is. I think one of the things is that the world needs more resources, and we're consuming so quickly. And right now that you either have to grow it or mine it. And I think that it creates true value from the mining of the resources. And also right now, we just kind of overall are consuming, and we do need to actually find a better way that's more sustainable.
Riverside Resources is a mineral exploration company focused on making big discoveries and is advancing a strong portfolio of gold, silver, and copper properties in the Americas. Riverside owns commanding land packages near active mines and deposits where new discoveries have been efficiently developed. Riverside Resources is exploring Mexico, a country with a rich mining history and an even more promising future, boasting silver and gold production increases of 5 to 10% per year. Riverside is also exploring British Columbia, a stable jurisdiction with abundant mineral wealth. Riverside Resources is driven, dynamic, and with its proven approach, turns knowledge into value by leveraging its proprietary mineral databases to generate and acquire high-potential projects. Riverside mitigates risk by advancing many of these projects through joint ventures and alliances, generating cash and share payments, partner-funded drilling, and preserving a tight share structure. And Riverside's business model increases the opportunity for its shareholders to take part in a major discovery with the advancement of multiple projects. Increasing value and opportunity for every shareholder dollar. Riverside Resources. Knowledge is golden.
There are actually 5 different types of joint ventures. There's many different ones, but it's kind of fun. One of the ones we really like, and we've been talking a little about, is joint ventures with private equity or private capital. And when you're doing those type of joint ventures, you're really thinking about, they're putting up their personal money. And so you really got to be respectful and realize, it's kind of like taking money from your parents.
Yeah.
It comes with strings and there's an expectation. And, and they're, so it's really important with private capital. And so when we do partnerships in my business with private equity, we really want to make sure we're aligned and really clear with definitely, because it's going to be about that reputation when you come back, and you want to keep that good reputation. So how are we going to make this work? And so it's really important. Another joint venture is with institutional funds. And when you do that, that's very interesting because it's someone else's money, but it's actually someone else's money, because they're basically representing other people's capital, and they're in the middle trying to get something done and working on it. And they're driven, but maybe it's not their actual money. And so they've got their neck on the line, that they've taken money from other people. And so how are they going to do it? And they're managing, and it's quite competitive. There's all kinds of different demands for their capital. The third one that I really like are with corporations, and those are often looking to expand, diversify. Maybe they're looking to replace something in their business that they're not doing themselves. And that's where we focus a lot. we often try to have communications with them and see what can we do different. What can we do with them that they aren't able to do themselves? And that's why us being small and nimble, maybe we can fit in and it's a real win-win. And we love those type of joint ventures. One of the creative ways is with royalties. And I think when you get joint ventures, you have this royalty afterward. You have this thing that you can have coming out. And so, you can create value through these transactions. And so when you create new value out of these joint ventures, it's really interesting. So maybe the last one's kind of research, government research and research in general can be kind of, you're going to find something new and different. It isn't necessarily for a transaction. It isn't necessarily financial, but it's really making a fundamental difference. So these are 5 types of joint ventures that are kind of interesting. Each has its own dynamic to it. And it's been really fun to have the chance to work on all 5 of these, particularly the government research ones, because those can often be long lasting, bringing in many different groups. And yet at the end, it's all down to, can you deliver that really value? But it's really, really fun to be on those government research joint ventures because those can be vast, quite fun for the mind, and you don't have to be quite as nitpicky about delivering so much right for the money. So it's really fun to be on those.
I was going to say the cool part about the government research JVs is the kind of the network that it gets you into, is because now you're kind of getting out of your own space, right? And now you're kind of branching into all these other different areas. And now you're meeting people that, you never thought you'd be doing business with, but now like moving forward, you're going to be like, hey, if we ever run into this problem, I know a guy we can call.
Yeah.
But
each one of those comes with kind of a slightly different twist. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And another thing, while we're just kind of talking out loud while you're searching, and no rush and no pressure at all,
Yeah.
John Mark. As geoscientists, it is difficult to explain a project based on what we do as professionals, because there's a lot of interpretation. There's usually not a lot of data, and so we're extrapolating data points, and really the idea behind that, almost like prospect generating and things like that. I mean, it's one thing. Everybody's got good ideas, but I guess there comes a tipping point where you have enough data, you have a good enough idea, and you can articulate that idea in the right way for someone to say, I'm ready to spend the money on this. Exactly.
Government contracts are really interesting for doing joint ventures because really you're going with industry. And inside of the industry, you have this breadth. And so what we've really found is that the industry has great knowledge that can find and get into great depths and really, really help. And so government contracts that partner with industry, whether it's in aerospace or in drilling or in petroleum, really, really can get to new concepts and going ahead. For government contracts, science is one of the really great things too. And with science, what we see in science is that we get the scientific innovations, whether you're at Caltech or my cousin's actually a professor where I'd studied myself at Harvard, is that scientific openings is so much fun. You're in joint ventures where you're working through the National Science Foundation or other places, and it's so much fun because it gets to be the frontier. And right now it's interesting to see where people are going into space without using the government, but doing it privately. But the government provides this great chance to do the research. The government contracts really help in the development of people.
Wow.
I'm so lucky. I had a chance to work in the government. Working in the government, I was able to learn and contribute. And there you actually work with such great people that knew things. And so you develop to have this interaction that isn't around money, but it's around delivery and quality. The government contracts are so cool because they create product. They give you products in all kinds of different scales. But the one thing is they actually are usually good for people in general, and they can be lasting, and it's really fun. So for us, when we get to work on government contracts, it's really fun. And I think the last most important is the government contracts are trying to bring the future to the present. They're linking out there to what are we trying to go toward and aspiring and creating the future today. And that's what's really fun, because often we're stuck trying to deliver what we have to today. And with these contracts, you can actually get the future things that people want. And so it's really fun to have these different 5 aspects in joint ventures.
Wow. That's actually really powerful right now. I mean, the government is making such a financial commitment, and you can call it even a sacrifice. I mean, the government has enough money to do it, but they have people that are putting that money into projects that are going to make a difference for the people that they govern. I mean, that, and having this in place and having the ability to find John Mark Staude and have that team that's ready to deliver something that can make that kind of impact. I mean, like you say, I was so lucky to work with the government. I think we could say thank you to having a government that has the ability to invest in that, and the foresight for that, and the patience. That's one thing I picked up on. They have the patience to say, okay, we have a future something. Let's work on what we need to work on now, and we're working towards whatever we think this future idea is or product is. That's sheesh. I mean, government contracts are awesome. Good question, Skips. Wow.
Hey man, that's what I'm here for.
All right. Well, let's take it back to science.
Yeah.
Sir, you are a PhD geoscientist, and I do not get frequently the opportunity to really sit down and to really address the question of, what is it in the mining industry that has progressed the most with science? Or what is it about Riverside Resources and the science you use and how you apply science to the problem to de-risk your resource exploration to come through with your JVs?
It's interesting, the science, because with the technology, really, that in the past, geophysics was so key, and then geochemistry. But right now, the computers, the visualization, I am so lucky to work in Riverside. We have got such a committed, great team that helps us to visualize what is otherwise just data. But when we can start to see the data and turn it around and integrate so much data, that is just amazing. And then when we actually take what's beyond the data, that is really awesome. When we vector and go beyond it, when we look at from where we are beyond. And for us, what we really see is the chance to integrate other people's data. So for Riverside, we're actually in a strategic exploration program with BHP, the world's largest mining company, and Riverside, one of these small up-and-coming Toronto companies, mining companies listed on the stock exchange, having BHP share their data, share their knowledge, and then to use software. And we were just doing a budget last night, and it was like my manager was like, well, we have to have a budget in there for software, and we have a data manager and all these different segments that in the past you probably wouldn't have, but it's so vital to our business. And so I think really that's what really helps us. Knowledge is golden, and using that data and begin to using machine learning. And we're actually using machine learning maps now. And it's really cool. And machine learning, you question, is the machine right? Is it knowing something? Is it helping you? Or is it actually got bad data? There's a whole other thing where the computer begins to create its own knowledge through artificial intelligence. And that's beyond. We're still working on human intelligence.
That's right.
With data. But it's really neat to at least get to the machine learning stage. And my son, it's great. He's 22, and he's doing computers and doing technology and electrical engineering. And he's just so on fire.
Oh, man.
Loving it. And it reminds me of when I was 22 and I was going out on the rocks, walking around on Earth.
Wow.
And he's the new technology. So for us, it just is so great. And someone asks you, how's your son doing? You just smile.
Wow.
That's great. Life is good. And so really wonderful. The new technology, being able to integrate with computers. What a wonderful time.
Wow. That's interesting. That's really, really interesting, because that's where we are at the industry. We did the SEG 2019 series last year. It was all about digital transformation. And I like that you said that you got to the point that you can use machine learning for really what it is. It's not so much a tool that provides a new idea for you to agree or disagree with. it's better used right now as a tool to take this unbelievable amount of data and know that it makes as good as a decision as you can make, or as we can make as a collective mindset in the science industry. It's not creating something that we can't think of. We have to think of that before the machines can really think of that. So it's a tool to take this worldwide data set, I'm assuming, from BHP, bring it in, see what it says about everything, and then go down into these rabbit holes of projects from there. I mean, that's got to be lights out in Riverside. I mean, every office door should be open and a party happening.
It is fun, actually.
Well, you can maintain your 6 feet.
Oh yeah, there's a 6 foot thing.
Yeah, it's 6 foot. Yeah, social distance party. Everyone parties.
Got our mask here. There we go.
Oh man.
Got our masks, so we're ready to do it, but we're not masked guys. But I think that, you know, we really love the data, and for us, we're only given a small cutout area with BHP. There's a boundary on it.
Okay.
But the wonderful thing was that relationship. So if we talk about our values of having that integrity, developing these type of relationships, come back to BHP 20 years or 15 years after being an employee there, and they have a trust. In fact, you know the data that they have that they don't maybe even realize they have. And you can say, look, that exists, and let's bring it into the future. Let's bring it into the present. Let's pull what's from the past, and let's project it to the future with that data. And the machine learning is really awesome. The guys you get to work with are just dynamite, super solid. They're the best of the best, great people to work in. And then we're on the ground working with it. So that's the really fun thing about the industry, is that we get to go and test the data.
Right.
We're in the field. So, and with this magic thing, this iPhone, this way to call people, we have like a computer. We can track, we can be in communication when we're out in the field. And people send me a picture of the rocks and ask me, what's this rock, John Mark, on the camera? And it's like,
I get those too.
Like, it's just fun, but it's like, and they go, how do you know that? And it's like, we've been out there for years.
Wow.
We've been on those rocks. And so we have this relationship, so we can do so much with technology. Wow. So for us, it's the whole technology is just the fundamental change. And for the mining industry, now we don't have to use so many people present. We can use more people aren't present, and that really changes our cost structure, makes it much more efficient and safer.
Wow.
For our exploration, we can go out and use these new technologies and satellites so we can be much more precise. With our drilling, we can now use man-portable or transportable, have a much smaller footprint. And the last is we can use all the past data so we don't have to do it again. That is the most valued. And that's why it's great to work. And we have this integration of this data. So now the computerization and using and scanning of all of that past stuff. You know, tomorrow's Saturday. I'm on an airplane tomorrow to go out in the field. I mean, that's what we do for our weekend, is go look at rocks and go into try to make it. That's just the passion. And that's this value when you have companies that are passionate about testing that data and having funding to go after it. It's a gift. Wow. And you're just so respectful and appreciative of that to try to test those scientific ideas. Wow. That's what's really a gift.
Wow. Man, that is, there was a lot there, a lot to chew on. And I just absolutely love this show. I love your ability to explain and keep us in on what this very important role is that we have as engineers and geoscientists in these industries. It's not just oil and gas; it's across all industries, revolving around economic geology. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
No, it is. And, you know, it's economics and geology, and particularly in the petroleum industry and all these industries, it's all trying to find ways that really make it work. And it's so difficult in the boom and bust. And right now in the petroleum industry, so tough. You know, prices are low, oversupply, don't have enough pipelines, don't have enough distribution. I live just at the edge of the water, and I can see the going in and out of the tankers coming in, and it's really quiet right now with COVID. Wow. Things are really slowed down, and I can just see so much less industry happening, so much less consumption, so much less demand, and it really is difficult. And yes, the world wants to go towards green energy, and we want to do these things, and we got to find ways to make it work. But fundamentally, we're using these resources, and particularly got to find ways to do it effectively. And so it's so difficult in the up and down.
Right.
And that's the thing. Right now in the mining industry, it's high, it's booming, and it's just incredible. So the different cycles. And so for my company, we actually try to go across commodities. We don't go into petroleum, but go across different mineral commodities. So we have programs for copper, for silver, for gold, for different commodities. And so there are different searches, and we put together a team that's capable to work across commodity using those same skills, so we can have longevity of employment, longevity of knowledge, and provide that continual learning so we can work more and more efficiently and effectively. And that's been the business design. And we've operated for 13 years and look forward to the next 13 years.
Wow.
And how we'll do that in the next 13 years by integrating the technology.
Wow. I feel like running through a wall right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you have two geoscientists standing in front of you. One's gold exploration, one's copper exploration. What is fundamentally different in their geologic approach to finding you gold and copper, John Mark?
You know, it's really interesting. You could, even more importantly, you'd put oil and gold or something.
Oh, there you go.
Copper and gold. And the thing is that there's such a different scale. And the reason I mentioned oil is so much bigger than all the minerals combined. It's just crazy. And it's this whole thing about scale.
10x.
And so if you realize that scale, if you're looking at oil, it is so big, and petroleum is so much bigger than oil. And it's just scale. So copper is a big scale, and gold is so much smaller, actually. And then behind gold is silver, and it's actually even smaller.
Wow.
But what we definitely find is that you're looking, and so you're working in different worlds. The second is when you're in a smaller thing like gold, there can be many more participants. So there's a lot more transaction. So it's a lot more easy to get going. And so there can be a lot more companies. So for our business to prosper, we need to focus on that because we can have more potential wins. We don't need such a giant thing. And when we find it, there's so many different opportunities to transact it.
Wow.
So for us, we actually go that way. It's just the size of the business as we get bigger. And perhaps we can work with a major like with BHP. Then we can work in copper. I love copper. It's fundamental need. We need the electrification of the planet. We need to put in new infrastructure. We need to grow the economy, and we need that copper. And we're extracting copper. We're not getting enough. We need to find new places to get it and develop those. So when you're in copper exploration, you're looking at something that's a much bigger scale. Also, you're looking at fewer locations. So instead, gold is everywhere. Copper is more focused. Also, you're looking very much always at economics, but particularly the economics with copper, because you have to pass all these other large developed projects that for incremental costs can just keep going and going. So you see many fewer copper projects ever developed, whereas gold, much smaller deposits.
But more developed.
Exactly. So you have many, many more. So you may find 50 gold projects developed, whereas you'd only find 5 copper mines ever built.
Wow. I had no idea that ratio. Wow.
The gold projects will live a decade. The copper projects can live a century.
Wow.
So it's actually, there's different clients and different visions, and it takes less capital. For society, the larger projects, the bigger mines create less overall footprint. They create great long, 100-year-long projects. So we all want the big projects. And those big projects are quite valuable for everyone. So we're looking for those big projects. So these small projects can grow to become big, and certain deposit types. And so I really follow a technology, a magma chem technology, fundamentally really love it because it creates the stuff about deposit types and models. And I actually have a book here in front of me, the magma chem model book. And it's really interesting because it fundamentally makes predictions about what grade and size you should find about deposits.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't realize, but this is a really awesome fundamental type of technology. And we have pages and pages here of different data points. And when you put those and plot them up and you look at populations within just the gold, there's different types of gold deposits that will have different scalabilities. For society, we want fewer mines that are more valuable,
right,
that create more great wealth, that'll have a less of an environmental impact, they'll last longer, they'll create the long-term jobs. That's really the essence of what's great. And so if we can do that for society, it's wonderful. And if we can find the right giant deposit in that right area where the communities can see and appreciate it, that's great. So we're not looking to develop a lot of small ones. What we're doing is hoping to learn which one of those might have the right DNA. They might have those right characteristics. Now, very few people use the magma chem models. It's not a perfect thing. It's just another filter, but it brings about certain populations that ends in statistics. And that's really helpful.
Wow. All right. We got Skips back. You're fumbling around there. We lost you.
Dude, I had a bunch of COVID warnings pop up on my phone because I'm recording this from my phone, and it just took me out of Zoom.
Wow.
So I was trying to fumble my way back in. So
wow. Kind of weird.
Yeah, I'll figure out what that is when I get back on it. But.
Okay. Okay. So we are now driving down into the completion part of the show. And we talked about JVs. We talked about how there's a fundamental rule that goes into JVs, and it's really under and triple underlined values between the people that are going into this venture, and aligning those things and getting an appreciation for what's written on the document, and both sides are committed to making that happen. That's what I got.
They really are. And I think in joint ventures, as you get going in them, you start to see, and so things start to get modified and worked on, and they do actually get to be smoothed out and developed. And I think one of the key aspects is that you have different goals of where you're going to get to. And it's nice to have these contracts that kind of lay out the rules and lay out the context. And then you have amendments and other things that get it because things change on it. But at the end of the day, it's really much more valuable to do things together, because then you can actually develop and bring in opportunities and bring other things. It may not necessarily be more efficient. It's often more efficient to just do it yourself because you can make decisions.
Yeah.
And so eventually one person will be bought out of a joint venture because they basically say, look, it's not working. We want to go ahead and just do it. And so, often you see that the joint venture was a stage. It created a facilitation of a business that was not going to otherwise. So it unlocked the value. And then at some point, it's limiting the growth of that value. And so one party might take it over to go ahead, and the other person might divest of it because they've gotten to where they can get in the value. So it's interesting how it's a stage of a business.
Yeah. So understanding what those key performance indicators are of either your party or, the party that, the other side of the JV, excuse me. I mean, that's the total key as far as that long-term relationship is concerned. I think you summed that up fantastically.
I would agree. Skippo. I think where I was kind of diving off and as you were finishing up, the JV is an agreement in the beginning that says, I have an idea. I think it's proven. I have data that suggests that this idea should work. And we've de-risked it up to a point where the person that says, if say a private equity deal, John Mark, they go, okay, you need 500 million or whatever, you need 500,000 and you're going to make more money than we spend. I also believe in this. What are the key pivot points in the immediate joint venture that's being built in day one? Where are the pivot points for everyone to really focus that allows adjustments and allows these rules to be in place to succeed?
Yeah, I think, some of the key, one of them is the signing of the definitive agreement is the launch point, really important. Like, okay, that's the data when it started. The next thing is the 1 year out. Often it's like you have milestones and where you're trying to get to. And so you're judging where have you got to. And that's a real important pivot point because you're 1 year into it. Are you on the track to your milestone? Are you not? And where are you going? 3 years is the time of attention span. I often call it 1,000 days. So instead of really looking at it as a year, it's a series of days. And then you can go down to, okay, these days, what are you going to do? Every day counts. Weekends are included. Every hour, it's all part of life.
Wow.
You don't take time out. And so it's really important to realize that your business is running all the time. And so because of that, your joint venture is. And after 3 years, the owners, the investors are saying, what have you done for me lately? What have you done? Things have changed. People have evolved. And so in 3 years' time is a real key pivot point because you've either achieved those goals or they're pivoting, going another direction.
Wow.
So those are key points. And then after 3 years, you have this realignment because at that point, things have gone to wherever they've gotten to.
Right.
No one ever gets to exactly where they wanted to. That would be miraculous. And if you did, you didn't get there the way you wanted to because you can't predict. I mean, no one predicted on, January 1st, who predicted what it would look like on March 30th? On March 30th, who predicted it would look like on June 30th?
Wow.
Like, you just can't. And so, in these joint ventures, you come to, so 3 years out, there you are. And then you're saying, okay, that's why it's interesting at 3 years out. Then it's like, okay, we're going to pivot or go, where are we going next? And if those are going after 3 years, they can really go a long time because at that point, they've really aligned. They've got a business and it can go for a good long time then.
Wow. What in the agreement then, say it's just a 3 year, here's what our plan is. We got a 1 year, we got a 1,000-day plan. And then you have something that is as disruptive as what we've gone through and what we're getting through. What technically in the JV allows for that kind of emergency roundtable that everyone's still working towards? Yes, everyone's still working towards what's best for everybody involved, but it doesn't allow it to be like the Colosseum in Rome where people are coming in with swords and there happens to be a tiger in the room. Like what is it in the JVs that allow us to get through that safely?
So, it's really interesting and it's difficult because those of us that get caught in these times where we don't have backup resources, where we don't have a safety net, it's so difficult, where we're actually trapped or where there's a change of control or a change of ownership or a change of people really can make it difficult. The thing that allows you to go through that is the past, having that commitment, having an understanding, listening, aligning and realizing, okay, both of you are going to have to give and understand. You have a vision for the future and not to actually live in the moment, but to live in, okay, it's not your fault. It's not, but you have to work with it. Or even if it is your fault, something's crisis is happening. It's done out of trust. You're trying to make it work. It wasn't intentional. And so you're basically looking to see how can you go beyond. And if you end up with this fight and that thing becomes very destructive, often in what marriages or things like that, that same type of thing can be very destructive. And if you can give it a rest, give it some time, give it a break, put it on pause, find a way to kind of just keep it going, the conditions can change and it can move ahead. So not acting urgently and instantaneously, but trying to take a quick but decisive and correct way to try to really have communication and work together.
How do you find those people? Because that's a personality. I feel like that's someone else's values that are aligned with yours, I think. And so you can't just go into business with anybody because there's a lot of people, in my opinion, that don't have any reason to be in business because they don't have the tools or the values to allow them to do that. It's just the reality. You can't have it all. You just can't have it all. Not everybody has it all. But when you have your values, you have the successful business, you find others that are aligned. I guess, what are you looking for? But I guess that's probably unique in every single situation, I guess.
we're lucky. We're very lucky. We've been able to build a solid business where we've been able to partner with companies that are much larger than us, that have a lot more resources. So if we can bring ideas to those businesses that are larger, when crises happen, they're big enough that they can withstand them. It's very difficult for individuals. It's very difficult for small businesses. They don't have the resources, and it's really tough. And so with them, one party may not be able to survive that time, and it may be having such crisis. So planning for crisis and having some type of a backstop. We're lucky. We have capital. We have no debt.
Wow.
We have a cash at the bank. We have a company that isn't burning on fumes. We're always trying to forward look, trying to make sure that we have long-term contracts, we have agreements in place, and this flexibility. And also we ourselves, we try not to be too stretched ourselves, so we're not on margin. So when things do happen, we're okay. We don't actually have to cover something that otherwise would be difficult.
That's amazing, John Mark. Congratulations on that.
I think it fits to the values. And as we kind of come to this summary, I think, really value friendship and being on this show with you guys. You guys really put a lot of effort into it. And so we build these partnerships, and it's great to be a sponsor of some of your different products. It's really, it's an honor for us to do that. And we don't do that very much at all, as you know.
Yeah.
And it's when we see quality, we work with quality partners like that in that quality partnership. And I think the Permian Basin is just doing great. You guys are getting out there communicating so many different ways. And that's what you look for in partnerships, is diversity. And so we find things that we bring that the other people don't have. And if you have that, then when crises come, you realize we can get through the crisis still better together than apart.
Wow. Man, thank you, John Mark, for the kind words, sir.
Yeah, very much appreciated. I mean, when we look at each other, it's just like, oh, we're just two geologists that do this like podcast thing.
Right. Well, Skis, you've been, it's interesting perspective for you, because you, after the kind of the oil shook out the way it did, you're in survival mode, and you've been helping on kind of the financial side of the business, and watching that firsthand under your mom's wing, essentially. And she has so much experience. What did you get from the show?
Oh man, so much. And I mean, I think what John Mark had basically summarized throughout this whole podcast, essentially talking about the core values of your company, understanding who you're getting into business with, right? Whether it's a big company with a lot of capital behind them, or another small shop like yourself, or, all this other stuff. I think the main takeaway is that you see correlations between successful businesses, and successful businesses are an image of the people running those businesses. So, and I think that is kind of the best thing that I could see, is like far as the correlation is concerned, with the work that the very little work that I've done in the finance space, as more on the geology side, but recently in the finance space, and then this podcast itself. I think that's the biggest thing. Understanding that the face of this business is the reason why this business is successful.
Well, it's teamwork, and I think it's really important. And I wouldn't be here as Riverside without the team. I've got a great financial manager, got great directors, really great people working with me. And I think you two as well. You guys working together. Peanut butter and chocolate.
Let's go. I love that. Can you imagine the first guy that was like eating chocolate, and he saw peanut butter, and he's like, all right, eating peanut, and then he puts it together, and he's just like, that first bite, and he's just going, what was that? Peanut butter and chocolate. And then the Reese's is made. All right. I think that was the completion of the show. Do you guys agree, or is there anything else you want to? We're good.
I think that was a great way to end it.
John Mark, again, thank you so much for the inspiration and for sharing this time together.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
Riverside Resources is a mineral exploration company focused on making big discoveries and is advancing a strong portfolio of gold, silver, and copper properties in the Americas. Riverside owns commanding land packages near active mines and deposits where new discoveries have been efficiently developed. Riverside Resources is exploring Mexico, a country with a rich mining history and an even more promising future, boasting silver and gold production increases of 5 to 10% per year. Riverside is also exploring British Columbia, a stable jurisdiction with abundant mineral wealth. Riverside Resources is driven, dynamic, and with its proven approach, turns knowledge into value by leveraging its proprietary mineral databases to generate and acquire high-potential projects. Riverside mitigates risk by advancing many of these projects through joint ventures and alliances, generating cash and share payments, partner-funded drilling, and preserving a tight share structure. And Riverside's business model increases the opportunity for its shareholders to take part in a major discovery with the advancement of multiple projects. Increasing value and opportunity for every shareholder dollar. Riverside Resources. Knowledge is golden.